been hearing me hum this over and over again. It's just a nigun, a song without words, so that we all can do it together. So just join me a little bit. Let's fill the room with beauty.
Well, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I have to say that that this world today, and as I was coming out today, as far as coming out into the weather sometimes has a way of matching the mood. Where it felt like at first yesterday, oh, it's so, it's so warm, it's so nice. By the way, a little unsettling at this time of year for Chicagoans who are ready for a turtleneck and a hot cup of coffee. But then today, as it got rainy, I felt like and as it got a little windy, I felt like it was more appropriate for how it feels to be in the world today. It feels a little bit like we are caught up in a lot of storms around our world, and certainly within our country as well. And I know that for many of us who are Jews, this rise in anti-Semitism, as we continue to hear about it from place to place to place, including here among our own Temple Sholom congregants, it feels a little bit like we're walking solo through this world, and it's a little unmooring, a little unsettling. And I think that in some ways then our Torah portion begins to say it all when we hear that God calls to Abraham and says, Lech lecha, go for yourself. Go out and go to the land that I will show you. And as we do this, sometimes it feels like, yes, we have to walk for ourselves. We have to go for ourselves. Because really, if God had just said to Abram, Lech, go, that would have been enough. But to say, Lech lecha, go for yourself, well, then we say, why? Why say lecha? Why say you have to go for yourself? And I think in some ways it's saying you have to be strong and vigilant, each one of you, each one of us. But it doesn't say go by yourself. It says go for yourself. And when we hear more about Abraham and Sarah's journey throughout the wilderness, going toward the land of promise, what we see is that they kept an open tent. And what did they do along the way? But they welcomed others in, and others stood with them and walked with them. And they were not afraid. They felt like, where were they going? They were charged to go on to a destiny that was filled with promise. And so as we gather here on Shabbat, we remind ourselves in our community, we are not alone. We have times like this Shabbat where we get to enjoy each other and create community and remind ourselves of how much love we can generate together. And we also realize as we walk on this journey, we don't walk alone because we've got good friends by our side. And so to have Pastor Chris Harris with us this evening as we have members of His beloved community with us. We are so very grateful that when life throws at us storms that we cannot control alone, we can control how we respond. And we can do so with the light of community, with the strength of a broad community, and with deep friendship as we move forward. So let's make some friends. If you don't know the people around you, say Shabbat Shalom, meet them, wish them a Sabbath of peace. There's more people to meet. You're not done kibitzing. Keep going. And I would say if you are not isolating for health reasons, then maybe get a little closer to the people around you. You don't got to sit alone. You don't have to walk alone. You don't have to sit alone. And if there's anybody here who still needs a prayer book, if there's anybody who doesn't have a prayer book, you can just put your hand up and we'll make sure that one comes your way. And so we very purposely, we start our service on Shabbat with the kindling of lights, and in that way then we symbolize what we want to bring into this world. And we have two lights, one to say that we should remember Shabbat, another to say that we should observe Shabbat, one to say that we do this as a community, and another to say that we need to extend our community, one to say that we have our own soul, and another to say that we have this extra beautiful soul on Shabbat that accompanies us and strengthens us. And so I know that there are people this evening who are celebrating truly the life of someone who's passed away, who led such a life of beauty and strength and goodness and kindness. And so I'll invite Elaine Barson of blessed memory, I'll invite her grandchildren to come to kindle the lights this Shabbat. So Lucy and Hannah and Robin, if you would come to the bima. And in this way, then, you extend your grandmother's legacy of light, her way of brightening our Shalom community, the way in which she made Temple Sholem, our sisterhood, and our community a better place because she was part of it. And truly, we see her light even before you kindle these lights of Shabbat. We're on page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We turn now to page 123, and let me just say just a word about how this prayer book works, that it opens from right to left the way in which Hebrew goes, so that we actually open on the opposite side than you might open other books. And what we see on the page, if we go to page 123, is that on the right side of the page we have the Hebrew. On the left side of the page, we have the transliteration. So if you don't read the Hebrew script, you can still pray with us. Underneath is a direct translation of the prayers so that we actually know what we're saying and how we're praising. One other word is that we have a lot of different choreography in our prayer, that at times we stand in order to show our reverence for a certain prayer. At other times we bow to show our humility and being part of something greater than ourselves. And so in this way, we move a lot during the service. And some of us move easily, and for some of us, we don't move around physically so well, but still we can have that intention so that if I say, please rise, or if we see people bowing, that we know in that moment that's how we're directing our hearts. And for some of us, our bodies follow in that same way. So either embody in spirit, we rise as we have our blessing for welcoming in this time of Shabbat with our Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim ki anu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Please have a seat as we turn now to page 138. There we find the words of Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi is a song in which we recognize that God is entering our presence in ways in which we might imagine, like a Sabbath bride, the kind of joy that we would greet the Sabbath bride. And so tonight we're going to be singing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And on that 9th and final verse, we rise and we face the entrances as we welcome in a divine presence as a Sabbath bride.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litila, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi makor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof maaseh b'machasha v'tchila, lecha Dodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech kumi ori, uri, uri, shirda beiri. Kvod Adonai alayach nigla L'cha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Hallelujah Hallelujah Hallelujah.
Please rise, face the entrances.
בואי ושלום עטרת מנה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
As we turn to page 146, we remain standing for the call to worship of the Baruch Hu.
Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai la lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
At the top of page 151, let's pray together in the English. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. 152.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shem Kivon Malchuto
We may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו תותפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
At the top of page 157 is this reading that we do often. And how much more appropriate is it? A story, a reading about joining hands and marching together, and especially on this night. So let's pray together in the English. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together.
Lie, 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 מי כמוך בעלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך רוב עליך, בוקי עין לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימו לעולם ועד, אדוני ימו לעולם ועד. לי 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 לי
Cantor, I know that this morning or this week you weren't feeling as great. I'm so happy that to have the energy to bring out that Mi Chamocha just is spectacular.
No voice on Monday.
Yeah.
That's
but
how
worth
life
it,
works.
Worth it. Voice for the B'nai Mitzvah tomorrow. Yes. As we turn the page to page 160, we have that competing energy level from that upbeat song about freedom to a song about protection, following that same history, that same line that our ancestors took of leaving Egypt, celebrating that freedom, and then finding themselves in an unknown place, and finding themselves praying for peace, praying to be kept safe, praying to have the strength to keep moving forward.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu lechaim u'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. Just listen to yourselves. Shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu
turn to page 164. We find the core of our worship service, acknowledging all of those ancestors who came before us and having a moment where it feels like it is truly just us and God, each one of us in that private communication, that private moment with the Holy One and each of us. We rise in body or in spirit and continue on the even pages.
Sifatai tiftach, ufi agir tehilatecha, Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi agir tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב והושיע. משיב הרוח, מוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים וחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Before we take those moments of silent prayer meditation, a poem invites us to thought by Trisha Arlen. There will be music and friendship and food if I'll allow it. There will be Torah and wisdom and godness if I permit it. There will be quiet and napping and deep rest if I'm open to it. There will be study and expansion and new ideas if I consent to it. There will be prayer and blessings and meditation if I give in to it. There will be hope and renewal and clarity if I walk towards it, if I let it in, if I allow it, if I permit it, if I open up to it, if I consent to it, if I give into it, if I walk towards it. The world changes for one day. Shabbat happens if I let it. Take that moment of silent prayer, each of us in our own way. Whether it's the words on your heart, the words on the pages, or just a moment of meditation. And when you feel ready, you may be seated.
acceptable to you, God, my rock and my redeemer. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Be'asuli mikdash ve'shachanti betocham ve'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata ve'ad olam. Lord, prepare me. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, sanctuary for you.
Prepare me to be a sanctuary. Prepare me, but it's up to me to do the work of being a sanctuary, a place of welcoming, a place of love. And that takes a lot of work, takes a lot of energy. It takes some shalom, both in that way of peace and that way of wholeness. And when there are moments in our lives where we are not feeling whole, how much more difficult it is to be a sanctuary. So as we turn to our Misha Berach pair on page 371, we think about those who are not feeling whole, those who are not feeling whole in body, in mind, in spirit, in holiness. We ask God to bestow them with those blessings of healing, with those blessings of wholeness, so that our loved ones, our friends and family may feel whole, complete, and full of healing. If there's anyone who you're thinking of in need of that blessing of healing, I'll invite you to share their name aloud as we'll see some names shared on the screens by those of our community online. And for that blessing of healing, I turn it to you, Cantor. Thank you.
Page 371. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Imotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Makor HaBracha
bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So last week, when there were people in LA that went on a freeway that had a sign over it from the Goyim Defense League, a hate group, that said Ye was right, and they spewed forth more anti-Jew hate. There were some people who reached out to me and said, we're here for support. Pastor Chris Harris was one of those people. And then, later that week, Pastor Harris posted something for everyone, not just reaching out to individual friends, but to everyone saying, this is the time for us not to be divided. This is the time for communities to come together to fight hate of all kinds. And then he continued to say, it's the time for us to re-invoke the Abraham Heschels and Martin Luther King Jr.'s among us. And it was with that then that I said, Pastor Harris, thank you. When can you come to Temple Sholom? And he said, how's next Friday night? And I said, there's a friend. And I said to you, and then you got to invite our community back to you. So I just want to say that if you don't know Pastor Christopher Harris, you should. And tonight, if you've not met him before, you won't forget him. Not just because he's going to impress you and you are going to be grateful to have such a good friend, but because we are going to be in relationship with each other, so much so that you won't forget him, because our relationships are only going to deepen from here. So I love that Pastor Harris received his divine call to preach on June 29th, 1997. And now he's pastored for more than 21 years. And in so doing, he has pastored so many people, brought them to their deepest truth, and probably brought many others to their calling as well. To feel the divine presence and to feel it close and then to do something about it. So I will say that he is the pastor of St. James Ministries and Bright Star Church in Bronzeville. And he has been married to the love of his life, Johanna Jojo Harris, for quite a long time. And they have 4 children whom they've raised, and also a godson whom they've raised together. One of their sons is here tonight. Chris, where are you? There he is. Yeah, so Shabbat Shalom. And I'll just say that, that what's wonderful about Bright Star Church is not just that it's an incredible church, it's not just that St. James Ministries is an incredible operation, but that Bright Star Church said we need to start Bright Star Community Outreach in 2009 that creates collaborative partnership program models designed to provide educational enrichment programs, anti-violence prevention, and intervention activities along with good student incentives. So that is a way of bringing ministry out. And after a 2012 trip to Israel, then you started, Pastor Harris, TURN, which is the Urban Resilience Network that's based on the Israeli model of Natal in Tel Aviv, that is a trauma-based way of reaching out. And so the 5 competencies, the core competencies, are counseling, parenting, mentorship, workforce development, and advocacy, all utilizing faith leaders as post-trauma counselors. What a beautiful way to truly not only be able to see something that seemed amazing where it was, but see then how to bring it to a community right here for us to be able to see that model and then to continue to spread that out. And so, Pastor Harris, would you please join me here? Can we hear for Pastor Harris, please? Either like this or like this. So, Pastor Harris, when we started this conversation, we wanted to be able to come together and to ask each other a couple of questions that we thought would be helpful to our communities. So I think that the first question that I want to ask you to be able to address this community is, could you tell us a little bit about how racism not only affects your community, but also how it's reared its head in different ways than you would have anticipated, and what a community like ours needs to know in order to stand with you?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me here today. And let me just tell you all, you are absolutely blessed to have one of the best rabbis all over the world. Will you please give it up for your rabbi? She is truly my sister from another mister. And I'm grateful to be with her. And the truth is, every single march that we've had, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all of the things that we have done, Rabbi Shoshana has been there with us. So on behalf of the African American community, one more time, give it up for your rabbi, please. It's really about relationship, and thank you. And if you would allow me just a point of personal privilege, I've been to many, many synagogues all over the place. Yesterday, I was just in Houston at a synagogue. One of my cantor friends became the cantor at what was called the largest synagogue in the country. And I hung out with them, and it was a bunch of cantors that were singing all night. But let me tell you, I can't believe the amazing cantor you all have here. You got to do better than that. Come on. I was trying to figure out how we could take you to Bright Star Sunday, but I don't want to cause trouble. There you go. Just amazing. And last thing, Rabbi, you all, again, I've been to many, many synagogues all over the world, and you are the first synagogue that claps on the 2 and the 4, the very first one. First one. I couldn't believe it. Everybody else, come on, let's just be honest. You know, black people clap on the 2 and the 4. White people and Jewish people tend to clap on the 1 and the 3. You guys are clearly black. I don't know what's going on over here. You know, you can come to Bright Star and hang out with us anytime. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the beautiful part. You know, if white people are clapping on the 1 and the 3 and black people are clapping on the 2 and the 4, God gets praise on every beat. And that's really what it's all about. And I'm grateful for us connecting. You know, when I was growing up, Rabbi, I used to read in the books. And there was these words: no niggers, no Jews. Couldn't believe it. And when you say that now, people cringe because they know it should not be said. But it's interesting that you could have never told me that when Elon Musk took over Twitter, the amount of times that the word nigger was used shot up exponentially. Who would have thought? And we're seeing it in ways that we used to read about in the books. It's almost like we went several steps forward and many, many steps backwards. We're seeing it not only in the N-word being used online, but we're seeing it on a constant basis in disinvestment in urban communities. We're seeing it when police brutality is happening and there are knees on the necks of people. It's not just that it happened with George Floyd. It's just that that's the one video that shook up the whole world. Can you imagine how many times it has happened and there was no videotape? It shows up when you have voting rights that are being stripped away, when in fact it is a real challenge for African American people to vote already. There are strategies. It shows up when I went to Carter G. Woodson School right across the street from my church, and my son, Christopher Jr., who's older than Christian, he came home and asked me to help him with math. And I said, okay. I said, well, give me your book. And I opened up the math book, Rabbi, and my name was in the book that he was learning out of. Just imagine. We don't want to acknowledge the horrendous amount of racism that we're seeing. I mean, we were happy to see President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama, but we had to endure them being called monkeys. And our children are seeing that. And now my children's children, my grandson Sebastian, we're seeing it. And so there are many, many ways where we're seeing racism, not just on social media, but also in the corporate world, in the philanthropic world, and in our communities. And the reality is, wherever you see racism, you will eventually see anti-Semitism. Wherever you see anti-Semitism, you will eventually see racism. And that's why I always say the African American and Jewish community has to come together. And we can't afford, that's right, we have to. We cannot afford to take credit for what Dr. King and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel did. That was 5 decades ago. And every time I'm traveling the world and singing the Hatikva, can you believe it? A brother from the hood singing the Hatikva. And they always come to me and say, Pastor Harris, do you know about the rich history and heritage of African American and Jewish communities being together? I said, yeah, I know about it. I said, but let's stop taking credit for what they did. If you want to impress me, let's keep the old frames and let's put some new pictures of us marching together and working together now. That's what we ought to be doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I would say that what we have also is something that you should know in our community is I think that if we were having this conversation 20 years ago, that maybe we would be telling a story of how it is that an African-American church on the south side and a predominantly white Jewish synagogue on the north side, how we come together.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that we also have a small and growing group of Jews of color in our community for whom are facing racism and anti-Semitism compounded on each other at the same time. And so in some ways, we're having this conversation, and this is just the beginning for how we need to rely on each other for support, real support.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and thank you. It's almost weird to say thank you for being welcoming, because it should be normal.
Right.
But what I find is we are so divided that we are not even willing to consider uncomfortable dialogue. In order for us to come together and sit at the same table, we're going to have to talk about some uncomfortable things. We're going to have to tackle some conversations that may make people feel a little bit squirmish, and that's okay. And one of the questions that I would ask and would want you, Rabbi, to come and teach our congregation and our community, pastoring 2 churches, people would want to know, could you explain what is anti-Semitism? Because a lot of people don't understand it. A lot of people have no clue what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Could you teach us that?
Absolutely. And I want to start with a common language that we share strongly, and that's Scripture. And I want to actually tell the story of what happens in the beginning of Exodus. And what we have is that there is a new Pharaoh, there's a new person in power, and all of a sudden says, gosh, it seems to be that there's a lot of Jews among us. And actually, we should do something to keep those Jews down, or else they're going to rise up together against us. So already we hear in that story that there's something nefarious, or at least imposed upon us, this idea that if we're in the diaspora, and if we're in another place that where we think that we are accepted, that there could just be a time in which there's a new sheriff in town, and we're not going to be safe. And so that is something that Jews live with often. That, okay, for this time we're safe, but are we really safe, and for how long? And I'll say the other piece that happens is that Moses then there's the directions to say any Jew, any male Jew who's born, kill them. Midwives say, no, we're not going to kill them. So then they say, you know what, then just throw them in the Nile. So Moses' parents keep him for as long as they can. And then what they do is they put him in a basket. They try to take care of him. Not only that, they have his sister watch and make sure that he gets to safety. And so she sees that Pharaoh's daughter takes Moses into the palace. And Miriam says, you know what, but you probably need a Hebrew wet nurse. So he brings Moses' mom in to actually share those stories. I say this because he grew up in the palace. He grew up with some kind of position of power, but he knew his real story. And he would never say that actually I am completely at home in the palace. He said to himself, I need to be looking out for my people. And who were his people? Well, at first he looked out and he saw the Jews that were being oppressed around him, and he did something about it. Then he goes out into the wilderness, and when he goes out into the wilderness, he sees that there are these 7 daughters who are not doing very well, who these other shepherds are coming, and they're not letting these other women get access to the water. And Moses stands up for them and says, actually, that will not stand either. And so then he actually uses his identity to say, my people are not just other Jews. My people are people who are oppressed in any way, and I'm going to do something about it. And he does something about it. So I have to say that I think that what I would want you to know about anti-Semitism is not only are we always worried for that other shoe to drop, but we also realize that there's something that we can do when we are in positions where we have some sort of a voice, where we have some sort of power. And what do we try to do? But we try to do something about it. And how do we do it best? Well, Moses didn't say, you know what, I'm going to help those women and then stay at a distance. Right. Moses actually married into that family. Moses then, when he went back and faced the Pharaoh, he said, it's not just about me, it's about all people who are oppressed. So they became this Erev Rav, this mixed multitude that went out together, walked together toward freedom. That's right. So here's what I want you to know about anti-Semitism. No matter if a lot of white Jews who are here tonight, and also Jews of color, that we might look like the rest of society that we're in today, we don't feel like it. And we're waiting for those kinds of signs to go up onto a highway that says, you're not safe here. You have to know this too, that today, what am I sitting with? Well, I'm sitting with last week that there was one of our members who was shouted down, called a Jewish bee in front of our synagogue. Sitting with that. These things are happening now. That also, and by the way, they used to be isolated incidents. They were happening for a long time. They're happening with much more frequency now. What else am I sitting with? I'm sitting with knowing that my colleagues in New Jersey, my Jewish friends in New Jersey, got a call yesterday from the FBI, a tweet that said, everybody needs to be aware because we have a credible threat. You're not safe right now. Try to do everything you can to get your communities to safety. And so that we're sitting with this where bodily harm has been threatened upon us again. And so I'm sitting with that. And then I'm sitting with things that are a little more subtle. That there was somebody today, I was sitting with them, they had just seen their kids off to school. They have twins who are in elementary school. And when she was walking them into the school, she noticed that somebody had a Kyrie Irving jersey on. And she said to herself, I don't know. Do they know about everything that's happening right now? Maybe that was something where it was just an innocent thing that happened. Or were they saying that I stand in solidarity with the kind of hate that was perpetuated through that film that he had promoted? Yeah. So we also ask ourselves, is that anti-Semitic? Is that not anti-Semitic? Was that innocent? Do I say something? How do I teach my kids to say something? Do I teach them, or will they live in fear? And so I guess the last thing that I want to say is, I think having complicated conversations is so helpful. That we're not asking that everybody, hopefully in time we build such relationships that everybody, whenever they see hate, even if they're just not sure that they'll say something. But in the meantime, if we could actually have conversations where we can talk about what it feels like to have this world where we have anti-Semitism on the rise, we have racism on the rise, and what do we do about it? And what happens when we see that there are some white Jews who say things sometimes that are racist? And what do we do when there are sometimes people who then say things that are people who are black who say things that are anti-Semitic? What do we do then? And how do we make sure that we're creating such bonds that nobody speaks for all people, but that we speak out with our own truth?
Yeah, thank you for that, Rabbi. I think one of the most important things is our connection, if we're going to have one, it cannot be transactional. It has to be relational. Yeah. Today, the Cantor so beautifully led us in an amazing song, a gentleman by the name of Reverend Jesse Dixon, who took me all over the world. Really, really was well known for that song. And I got emotional when you sang it, because I felt like I was at my church in a synagogue. So look at the connection and the commonality. And here's what I believe. When people mess with who you love and who you care about, you stand up, you show up, and you speak up, period. Full stop. We cannot afford to stay quiet. We have to speak out about it. Those who are in the sphere of influence that I have the privilege to be able to have any level of influence, I think it's my job to speak so loud to where it overshadows the rest of the noise that is out there. Know this, no individual speaks for all of the people. There are many people who are African American who absolutely does not agree with many of the things that are being said today. Now, check this out. You gave the amazing song, Lord, prepare me. I'm going to see if you remember the lyrics, to be a sanctuary. Now, in the black church, you got to talk back to the preacher. So today, I need you to act like you're at Bright Star. Say sanctuary. I need you to use your preaching voice. Say sanctuary. Sanctuary. And I was preaching on the sanctuary before, and I defined the word. The word sanctuary is a place of refuge where hunting is controlled and predators can no longer hunt. A place of refuge where hunting is controlled and being a predator is prohibited. Can you imagine if we lived those words? Lord, prepare me to be the place where hunting is controlled and predators, or being a predator, allowing people to be victims to predators, is prohibited. I should be the place where if anybody messes with my sister Shoshana, they got trouble with a brother from the hood. Bottom line. That's the way. I should be willing to protect my brothers from another mother and my sisters from another mister. If I find out something is happening, something's being said, I got to show up, I got to stand up, and I have to speak up. But I use that in the terms of the 3 C's. Number one, Everybody say this. Say, be concerned.
Be concerned.
I love it. Y'all caught it. They saying it's strong. Be concerned. If something happens in Israel, my son, Christian, he always, when we go to different things, if I say I'm going to the Jewish community for any reason, he shows up with me. I mean, my son sometimes wears a U.S.-Israel flag. That's a young black man from the south side of Chicago. And people ask, why do you do that? And he says what his dad says, we're better together. That's what we believe. Be concerned. So when I'm concerned, if I hear something's happening at a synagogue, in the Jewish community, Highland Park, Israel, it ought to affect the way that I think. It should be on my mind. But then the second one is, everybody say, be connected. It's one thing to be concerned, but it's another thing to be connected. I think it's important that as I'm going to the Jewish day schools and speaking to the young people and on the college campuses, educating those from Alpha Epsilon Pi and Sigma Alpha Epsilon Pi, I teach them, they say, how can we build bridges between blacks and Jews? I said, wait a minute, you all haven't figured this thing out yet? Haven't you noticed that there are three things that blacks and Jews love to do? We love to party, we love to eat, and we love to drink. What's the problem? Right? And I tell them, I said, if you want to make that connection, here's what you can do. You invite me to your Shabbat dinner, and I'm going to invite you to my Shabbat barbecue. That's the bottom line. That's how we do it. Come together. If you agree with that, clap your hands like you really agree with that. But the problem is, we only come together during Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. And we link arms. And we sing and rock, "We Shall Overcome." But can I tell you, we will never overcome until we come over into each other's community to find out what impacts us, what affects us. And so the third one, while the first one is be concerned, that's when you put your head in it. Be connected, that's when you put your hand in it. But the third one, everybody say, be compassionate. Be compassionate. That's when you put your heart in it. And I'm here tonight because I love you. I'm here tonight because you showed love to me and to my community. When we needed you, you and some of your congregants showed up, and I'm committing to you that when you need us, me and my congregants, we're going to show up as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love that. And I want to add one more. So we have be concerned, be connected, be compassionate. And I would also say be committed.
Yes.
Because the thing is that what happens for so many Jews is that we always have an escape route, right? We're always thinking, well, you know what? When things were so oppressive in Egypt, what did we do? We got out, right? We so often think, well, if things get really bad here, we'll go to Israel. Some of us say Canada, but yes. So, but we have this escape route, like that's part of it. And we come from people who had an escape route. This was their escape route. Yeah. And so now, what we realize, we don't have an escape route. We love Israel. We're grateful that Israel exists, and we love Israelis. Grateful that they have a strong, beautiful country. And we say, we as diaspora Jews, we don't want an escape route. We want to love Israel on its own terms, and we want to make this country what it deserves to be. And so we stay committed because it gets hard, and sometimes we just want to leave. But we're committed. We're committed to this country, we're committed to Chicago, and we're committed to each other across neighborhoods. Like, here we are.
It's amazing, and I'm so grateful. It's amazing to me how many people are shocked that I've been to Israel 7 times and have taken more than 70 plus faith and community leaders. And as you alluded to, when I went to Israel and December of 2012 and saw the place called Natal, you know, I'm floored by it. I'm like, wait a minute. They suffer from PTSD in Israel. And so Natal is where they go to get PTSD addressed. And I'm sitting there, wait a minute. They're worried about missiles and sirens in Israel, but we're counting body bags and toe tags every day in Chicago. At that time, it was 1,142 people murdered when I first had this idea, and I announced it with Northwestern, Rahm Emanuel, and University of Chicago, United Way. One of the first rabbis to show up was Rabbi Shoshana when we made the announcement. And now, since January of 2012, think about this, more than 7,000 people have been murdered in Chicago. And that doesn't include those who have been shot or wounded. And we asked the question, who did or does the trauma counseling for those families? Whether it be the victim's family or the perpetrator's family. In most cases, nobody. Because black and brown people, not exclusively, but specifically, we don't really go to counseling for 4 reasons. We don't know the counselor. We don't trust the counselor. We don't think we can afford the counseling. And then number 4, the stigma. Nobody wants to be labeled crazy. But they still come and talk to people like me, the faith leader. So the Lord told me while I was in Israel, I want you to identify, train, and certify faith and community leaders to provide trauma counseling based on the Israeli model. We've been able to do that. And here is something that you should be proud of. Over the last 8 years, African American and Jewish leaders, we've come together and we've worked hard at Bright Star Community Outreach. We bought the model from Israel, and the folks came over 5 times to train people in Chicago. And here's the good news. We have a helpline here in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, that people can call based on the Israeli model. And we have now touched more than 50,000 people with this trauma helpline. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But what I'm trying to convey is we have to be committed to going beyond words. What is the work? What will we do? I came tonight, you know, kind of as the spies spying out the land. Can Bright Star and St. James become family with Temple Shalom? See, I want to go back and say to them, hey, Bright Star, hey, St. James, there's this cool rabbi, this amazing cantor, and some folks that I kind of thought was black on the, clapping on the 2 and the 4. They want us to come together so that we can be concerned, we can be connected, we can be compassionate, but clap if you agree with your rabbi, we can be committed together. Excited.
I'm excited too. Thank you so much. Thank
I love you
so much.
Thank you.
Love you.
You have fired me up.
If you didn't hear the cantor, she said, can I hug you? You have fired me up. Now, I'll just say that, Pastor Harris, you have to understand that the cantor always comes very fired up. Mm-hmm. So who knows what this might look like? I love this. And Rabbi Gelman...
I can sing in church, you know.
Come on with it.
So I'll just say, Rabbi Gelman, does not necessarily want to be part of the choir in a singing way, but definitely part of this choir of all of us coming together.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And also Rabbi Singer, who's in Israel right now, is very much committed to this as well. So we are grateful that we walk as these beloved communities together. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, with that, this is the people who come here regularly know that this is the time where you just sit back and you say, I wonder how long these announcements are going to take. We'll see.
Well, we got 2 things coming up on Sunday. Sunday is going to be very exciting. In the morning, adult education. We have a guest scholar with the Narrow Space with Dr. Alicia Waldman, talking about her journey through healthcare in Israel. His journey through healthcare in Israel and the Midwest. And then later in the afternoon, you could join Brotherhood at 3 p.m. We are heading to X-Golf Wrigleyville. Even if you are a terrible golfer, you're just whacking a ball at a screen, so it's not going so far. So we're gonna avoid some of the Chicago cold weather, but we haven't experienced that yet, so I don't know what that is.
I'll take the next one. I mean, I gave enough money to Tisch School of the Arts. So adult education on Monday nights are watching the film A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. You gotta go. It's at 7 p.m., Mixed Presents.
And this Wednesday night, November 9th at 7 p.m., we skipped over a very important thing that's happening on Tuesday, November 8th, and that is that we're all going out to vote.
Amen.
And then on Wednesday, November 9th at 7 p.m., we are going to hear from 11 candidates who are in the running for becoming the mayor or maintaining being the mayor of Chicago. We have 11 candidates, including our current mayor, who will be here at 7 p.m. on this Wednesday. And I'll just say, we need to register by Monday, November 7th. Everyone is welcome. This is open to the public. And yet, you do need to register for it. November 7th is the date to do that. And I'll just say one more thing. We realize that not everybody who will be running for mayor has already decided to run. So we will be having those candidates who come on later at other over these coming months. Oh, okay. So I'll keep going. We have Tot Shabbat next Friday, November 11th, at 5 o'clock. And here's the really fun part: it's pajama themed. So
yes,
I love that people clapped for pajamas.
Oh, we're still going on clapping.
Yes,
So
and
good.
by the way, that does mean that if you came for the Tot Shabbat at 5, you stay for the 6:15 service.
Yes.
Pajamas are welcome.
Me too.
Wait till you see my goth pajamas.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's worth coming at 5 o'clock for the Tot Shabbat service.
Even if you're not a tot.
Please, Rabbi Conover, take that next one.
Please, Rabbi Gelman.
So next Shabbat, Shalem, our group here at Temple Sholem that is embracing racial and ethnic diversity, made up of Jews of color and those whose families include Jews of color, are bringing in a special speaker. We're welcoming the Chicago artist and activist Tonika Lewis Johnson. She is known through Chicago as founding the Folded Map Project. It is a project to connect both sides of our map, our north side communities with our south side communities, and seeing where your address is on the other side of is it State Street? Which one?
Well,
goes
I'll
this
just
way?
say this. We fold the map. Guess where we land? Bronzeville.
No, there you go.
Truly.
Yeah. And so we are welcoming her as our special guest next Shabbat at
The
6.
following Shabbat after next Shabbat, November
I know dates.
18th.
November 18th.
And
you.
Bria Harris is one of the organizers along with others, but Bria is here tonight. Bria, I know you wanted me to do that. Yeah, so if you have
Thanks,
any
Bria.
questions about it, or if you just want to thank somebody who helped to organize such an incredible Shabbat experience, find Bria, thank her, and also ask her more about this. We're all very much looking forward to this. And with that, if you were timing, I don't know, Jeremy, were you timing us? I do want to say a very special thank you to everyone who came out tonight, everybody who's joining us from home this evening. I want to thank the folks from Bright Star. Who's here from Bright Star tonight? Just want to say a big thank you for being with us. Thank you so much. We're going to continue these conversations at the Oneg, which is a dessert reception. So with that, and I also want to thank those who helped to make this evening happen. including two amazing people who are in the back working our technology. Thank you so much, Drake and Julian. Thank you so much to Julie Adler. Thank you to Jeremy Perlin. Thank you to Patrick. It's wonderful that we have so many people on our team who also, not only were they making this happen, but they said, we'll make this happen because we're not going to stay away. If Pastor Harris is coming, we're coming. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pastor Harris. And now we turn to the bottom of page 586. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא. יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
On this Shabbat, we are marking the yahrzeit of Yitzhak Rabin, of blessed memory, who was murdered by an extremist on November 4th, 1995. You can be seated for just a moment. As we remember him, and we remember him as both a soldier and then someone who soldiered forward toward peace, he stands for many of us, for who we most want to be, what we most want to live for. And I'll say that even as he died in a tragic way and way too soon, it's up to us to continue that legacy of those who pursue peace and pursue peace with our very last breath. And I'll say that there are people who have people closer to home, closer in our lives whom we're remembering on this Shabbat. And so many of them also showed us what it means to live with integrity. And so as we began our service with light, we conclude our service with light because we remember their lights, and then we commit ourselves to shining it out in the world. We had the lights of Shabbat kindled this evening by the granddaughters of Elaine Barson, whose first yahrzeit we're marking tonight. And I'll just say that just as she lived her life with such style, with such goodness, with deep commitment to family, she, no less than Yitzhak Rabin, reminds us what we can do with a life well lived. Love fiercely the people around us. Show them what it means to live with integrity. And then we become those who continue to work toward peace with everything we have. So I want to say thank you to her granddaughters for showing us your light and the way in which you will keep her legacy alive. And as one big human family, we commit ourselves in that same way to living in the light of Yitzhak Rabin as well. On this Shabbat, we also mark the yahrzeit of Charles E. Abrahams, Erwin Axelrod, Burton Bart Barish, Elaine Barson, Bernard Berkowitz, David Bookchester, Jean Kalisoff, Tilly Major Chor, William Sorowski, Theodore Kramer, Dorothy Danhauser, Daisy Driss, Barbara Feldman, Larry Gordon, Sheila Rosenblatt, Joseph Rosenblatt, Ethel Ganbarg, Jerome Gerstel, George Gervine, Seymour Geyer, Ben Kaplan, Martin Kaufman, Eddie Krulwich, Harold Leon, Bud Lindenbaum, Edward Mattress, Bess Meyerowitz, Irving Names, Sue Perlman, Melvin Potash, Eileen Quinn, Shirley Razumna, Eleanor Schiffer, Raymond Shannon, Dorothy Farsht Simon, Nathan Stillman, Elaine Superfine, Marvin Ullman, Bertha Weinstein, Marge Wolf, Louis Zaremski. On this Shabbat, we also extend our condolences to those who are still in their first 30 days of mourning their loved ones. We extend our heartfelt condolences to the loved ones of Tony Guzman, Edward Hoffman, Roger Greenberg, and Norman Lasco. Pastor Harris, I know you had two people who recently passed away in your church community, and if you would like to say their names now out loud so we can hear their names as well.
Ellen Mary Taylor.
Thank you. If there are others who are remembering a loved one on this Shabbat, I invite you to say their name. The words of the mourner's Kaddish, we praise God for the gift of memory. It's found on page 598. Please rise.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון ויומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושה. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא וימרו. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום, עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו, amen. I'm pulling a little bit of an audible.
Are you really? Oh, I love the
am.
audible.
I
I can
know.
tell the audible.
Yup.
So could I just do a couple things before you
Yes,
call
of
that audible?
course.
But Minkyu, of course, continue to play that audible.
You know my audible because we
know.
know and love each other so well.
That's exactly right. So I just want to firstly thank the musicians who are with us, Minkyu Shin and Ethan Parcell and Hannah Bureau, who do so much to lift
Our
us in these
Sabbath
services.
trio.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I want to invite to the Bema now those who are from the Bright Star community to sing this closing song with us. We'll put the words back on. If you haven't caught on yet, we're singing Sanctuary to close us out this evening. I also want to invite our past presidents who are here with us, others who have served on our board, to also come up to this Bema.
Yeah.
Cantor, you're going to have to come
I'm
to the
coming
Bema
up.
too, so that we can all stand here. I'm going to invite those who are out here in the community who are not socially distancing. Those who are, stay socially distanced, but those of you who are not, put down your prayer book. Put your arms around the people around you. Maybe sway a little bit. We'll show you how. Maybe you'll show us how. How's that? Oh, like the Elsters. You show us how.
Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with again like you mean it. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you and you and you and you and you and you.
So let's continue in the Oneg, being concerned together, being connected together, being compassionate together, showing our commitment to one another as we continue together to repair this world. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.